Hi everyone, hope you're well. This is CoinsKid. Just another to XRP once again. Thank you for your support. Okay, big of the CoinsKid crew. So on Friday there was a nice little atom trade. That's pretty much the only thing I shorted over the weekend, to be honest with you. I was looking at other coins, but atom, it came up. If we take a look on, I think it was Friday, it was actually on the micro as a sell warning. So we looked at that opportunity. I think it was trading into this low resistance at the time, which is basically, if we zoom out in the 4 hour, you got this neckline just there, which it was trading into, and this is where we opened our short, and it came all the way back down. This God candle back test just there. Look at that, and found support. It was a lovely little trade, around about 20% over the weekend, and the CoinsKid index was telling us micro sell. So this is what I relayed to the CoinsKid group. It's pretty much the only coin on Friday that was in that state. If you are looking for trades, long, short, whatever, I'd highly recommend coming to CoinsKid.com. Look at the micro warnings right now, okay? Because yesterday, all these coins yesterday was buy. Okay, Cardano, Doge, Solana, XRP, so on and so forth. They're in a state of buy on the micro. So like I relayed to you, we jumped in at $1.64 yesterday, nice little buy zone, and we've seen a move up. So if you're looking for trades, look on the list on the micro signals to buys when the market's in a state of greed and fear. Do the opposite, obviously. But if you're looking for little futures trades, go to futures blocks just there, and you can clearly see, if you take a look, the front end of the market is actually pumped. Okay, so we've seen Bitcoin pump, Ethereum, XRP, so on and so forth, and they're pulling back a little bit. But if you are looking for opportunities for shorts or longs, you can use the key here, basically looking for optimism and greed and extreme greed, which we don't quite see. So nothing's presenting a short opportunity at the moment. In fact, the market is still a little bit fearful, so you're looking for extreme fear. So like I've always taught you, you will see the front end of the market pump, and you'll start to see the mid and the back end of the market play catch up. So we have one coin here that's still in a state of fear, Lux. Okay, so that's still in a yellow extreme state of fear, so that could be a nice little long opportunity on Mexi or Bybit or Blowfin. It's entirely up to you on Lux to go long, because it's sitting in an extreme state of fear and it's not caught up the front end of the market. And this is how you can easily identify these opportunities. So down here we have a whopping bull div. You got 1, 2, so you could start to see a third bull div. There is one printing just there where you got the low and the lower low, but you got a low and a higher low in really oversold conditions. So Lux could begin to catch up the market. I would be looking for this retracement into this God candle breakdown just there around about 0.011547, and this is just how I find my little opportunities. So from here right now, you could be looking at a 39% pump on Lux. So if we click the little M just there, it will tell you exactly where you can trade this. Currently Qcoin, Bybit, BitGet, Mexi, the links are all in the video description right there. Look, so this is a little micro cap, 8.28 million, and it's really sitting in an extreme state of fear with a bullish divergence on the micro time frame, and it's not caught up the market yet. So that could be a nice little trade, and that's just simply how I find my little trading opportunities using CoinsKid.com and the many sections that I create for yourselves. The micro signals and the futures block signals right there. Let's dive into the S&P 500 quickly, because I want to show you something that were triggered yesterday in the S&P 500. So looking at the S&P 500, like I said to you, I think we've been in a correction since December. So all the tariff FUD and things like that, there was a comment yesterday, it's breaking down because of the tariffs and things like that. I don't really pay attention to that. I just look at the structure in the charts. For example, like I said to you, I think we've been correcting since December just there for the S&P 500, not here. I think this is a false eye, okay? Because if we take a look at the daily, just like XRP and Bitcoin, I think this move up in January and February here has been a corrective move. This is part of an ABC zigzag. And typically in the C wave, it gets really nasty and really, really sharp. It drops quite significantly, quite quickly in the C wave. So there's no bias here. What I'm looking at in this particular chart is basically yesterday we triggered a technical bear market. But like I said to you, this thing right now could start to carve out some kind of structural bottom down here. If it starts to break out to the upside, then you've not entered the bear market. What you've done, you've triggered the bear market right at the end of the bear market, right at the end of the correction. Now, where have we seen this before? For example here, okay, you've got a bear market just there. You're coming down the stairs, and a long period of time, you're drawing down in little micro waves where you're coming up, coming down, coming up, coming down, so on and so forth. But what we've got here is basically the fact that we've seen such a quick, swift rug pull from the high for me, structurally, that looks like a C wave right now. And this is something I've been looking at with yourselves, that I think we've been in a correction since December, where we've had a 3-wave move down, a 3-wave move back up, and right now you're in a C wave drop. So this right now is a C wave because of the sharpness and the quickness of this drop that we've seen. For example here, long drawn out correction, okay? So I hope you're staying with me, and I always look at, historical structure to, try and identify or have a, basically guess of what's going on. And again, nothing I say is financial advice. Everything is for entertainment, educational purposes only. But, what I'm looking at right now is the structure within this particular drop could indicate, okay, this is pretty much similar to what we got there. Similar to what we got there, similar to what we got in the sharp drops historically when we've seen them for the S&P 500, typically come towards the end of corrections, not the beginning basically. And I'll go through this with you. So if you look to the left, we've got two financial crises here for the S&P. So we've got this high and we've got this high. So this is your dot-com bubble and this is your financial crisis, the housing collapse in 2018 right there, the banks playing silly buggers. But what we've got is a slow grinding down trend like this, okay, and then right towards the end, boom, rug pull. Slow grinding down trend like this, and then right towards the end you get your rug pull. You come back up and you drop once more. So typically when you start to see the waterfall in these crashes and corrections, just like you did there, it is usually towards the end of the correction. Again, you've got a massive waterfall just there, so you come up in an A and a B and then you drop in your C. Your big waterfall right towards the end where max pessimism and bearishness comes into the sentiment of the crowd and the charts right there. So again, just there, you're coming down the stairs, slow grinding down, and then boom, waterfall right towards the end. So all I'm trying to relay to you is your waterfalls that you see in corrections, in C waves, are usually towards the end of the correction, not necessarily in the the beginning or the sort of middle part of the correction. They are typically towards the end. So what I've been looking at with yourselves since December is a correction. Okay, so if we zoom into the daily time frame for the S&P 500, what we've got is a 3-wave move from the upside, which is basically a trigger point in December. Seen a 3-wave move down, the 3-wave move back up. So I think we've had some kind of A into a B, and right now it's your C wave. And typically in C waves, you finish a correction and you see the waterfall in the C wave. So I think that actually this is a C wave of correction. We'll sort of carve out some kind of structure down here. It doesn't necessarily mean we can't do something like this where we come up and have another low onto this red trend line. Would be absolutely amazing. Even the 1 fib, you can clearly see how just shy of that we came yesterday at 41818. You come up like this and you drop. Oh no, it's a whopping bear market, but you'll be finishing off your correction because typically the waterfall comes towards the end of the correction, not in the beginning or the mid part. It comes right towards the end of the C wave. So like I said to you, I think we could have a 1 into a 2 into a waterfall 3 into a 4 into a final 5th wave that comes down to these levels here before we get the reversal in this chart. So with that, not necessarily we've seen the bottom of this correction so far, but we are really close to it because this is typically what we see. We see the waterfall in the C wave, which is towards the end of the correction. So I hope you understand the update. So technically what I'm looking at right now, I think we're in a whopping ABC for the S&P. I think we've been in it since December. I think the tariff FUD and all that kind of business is just noise. We've been in the correction since December, but what we're seeing right now is the big sort of ferociousness of the C wave, which is typically where we start to see the end of the correction in bigger corrections here for the S&P 500. Let's dive into the XRP chart right now. But going forward, if it's just start to really break down, obviously it's in the world of trouble. I'm completely wrong, but what we've got right now is an ABC, in my opinion, a macro ABC, and I think we've seen it in Bitcoin and XRP, so on and so forth. So we're looking for the bottom, and then we're looking for some kind of reversal structure to get back out. I think one of the things we need to see in this particular chart to get incredibly bullish on this chart once more and confirm the bottom from which we've come is just basically getting your ass back above these EMAs on the weekly time frame, a close back above the 20 and 55 EMA, which we're currently trending under on the weekly time frame, for me will be a very bullish statement in the future. So again, you could, and entirely up to you, like a relay to when we was floating up there at $2, you could just exit this market and wait for more bullish signals to stack up, because at the moment obviously this is in a downtrend and it could go anywhere. But in theory, I looked at the historical data here. Whenever we see the waterfalls in the S&P 500, it is towards the end of its correction, not in the beginning. Hope you understand that update. Let's dive into the XRP chart right now, see what we can see, okay? So looking at XRP on the daily time frame, there is another big macro head and shoulders pattern just there as well, and equally a descending triangle right here where we've got really compressed towards the apex and we're beginning to break down below the support of the apex basically. So again, there's no perma bear, perma bull here. I just react to price structure. For example, way back here, I think it was late February, as this started to break down, I did say to you I think we'll come down to this $1.64, but then we've seen this Trump pump and it took out that high there, so that actually got me really bullish, I'll be honest with you, because we've broken the structure of a downtrend. So you've got your high and you come up make a lower high, so you got your high there, lower high, and you're coming down making lower highs. But this Trump pump, it basically hoodwinked me, to be honest with you, and it made me take my eyes off this particular pattern that I've been looking at that time frame, which was late February, of this beautiful left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder. This breakout to the upside made me think that the pattern was invalidated. But you can clearly see as you come up, you came back down, you actually retraced once more into this resistance. I think it was in late March. You got the confirmation of this neckline at previous support as resistance right there, and boom, it's dropped, and it's absolutely found the technical target of the head and shoulders pattern that we were looking at late February. So I should have had more conviction, to be honest with you. I do apologise, but this Trump pump hoodwinked me, I'll be honest with you, because structurally it looked as though we was on the cusp of breaking out here like this, because we began to make higher high structure here. But obviously as this started to come down and we've lost the ribbon and lost this $2 target, eventually this head and shoulders is played out. So I've got to have more convictions in the patterns that I see. But I'll be honest with you, this little Trump pump, it basically made me take my eyes off this particular pattern that we found way back in late February right there. I'm really sorry for that. Okay, so basically we've met the technical target of a head and shoulders pattern. Does it mean that the bottom's in? Absolutely not. Okay, because what we want to see from this point right now is structure of a bottom. Start to carve out structure, get your ass back above the ribbon, because you can clearly see you're trending below it, you're in a red sell up. I think once we get our ass back above, okay, we could begin to say, okay, we're looking at another impulsive move to the upside. But equally as confidence at that particular time frame, when we see that, we need to see the S&P 500 breaking out. We need to see the S&P 500 telling us, okay, you're looking incredibly bullish here for another move to the upside. So until that day comes, I still think we're caught in a correction here for XRP, and there's all the chance we lose this low. We come down to the 382 at $1.477, and obviously a deeper correction to the 05 fib at 1.14239 right there. So typically I do look for 5 waves in the C wave. So if I'm looking at this right now, I think we may have had a 1 into a 2, and right there's your waterfall 3 coming down, some kind of 4 and a possible 5 before the true reversal. Now we have traded a 5-wave C wave in the past, so basically for those people who've been on the channel for a very long time, they will know that I think the corrections began there for XRP and not here. I think this is a false eye. I think it's a B wave bull trap. I think we've had some kind of A into a B, and right now it's a complex correction, WXY, C wave, whatever. It even could be some kind of ABC here that's complete and does something like that. But what I'm looking for is the confirmation from the S&P 500 that it's breaking bull again, getting your ass back above them weekly MAs, and equally within the structure of an XRP itself, that it starts to do something like this, carves out reversal structure and gets its ass back above the ribbon, because you are clearly at the moment in a downtrend on the ribbon, which is a really important indicator that create for the CoinsKid crew. Until we get our ass back above and create the green buy dot, which is something I've been relaying just there, it's down basically, and we've got to project to the downside. So at that point we found a technical target off this beautiful god candle back test and the head and shoulders, but it doesn't guarantee the bottom's in right now. So technically we are in free fall here for XRP, and we could come down to these targets, absolutely possible. Can't take it off the table, but I'm looking for more confidence in the structure of a reversal here for XRP, and equally, most importantly, the S&P 500. So we've got to pay attention to them charts. A lot of people only want to see XRP every day, but we've got to pay attention to the SLP. It holds all the clues. For example, if we take a look to the left there, like I said to you, on this bottom here, we started to come up impulsively in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup in January of confluence at that particular time frame that this was a very bullish statement for XRP that was going to come up into this 82 cents level of 1.618 fib was the S&P 500, and this is what I do. I'll show you the confluence in other charts. So from that weak bottom in January, XRP came up into the 1.618, which was the minimal target I was giving you from this low here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful impulsive move, and equally at the same time the S&P 500 was breaking out of its downtrend. So this was a very, very bullish statement for XRP, and we just don't see it at the moment to get excited about potential bottom being in. So for me, I still think we're caught in a correction here. So until we start to see 5 waves up off a low, and we start to see the S&P 500 printing bullish statements again, I think we're caught in a correction still, and this correction could be really, really nasty. Where we come down in some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move to the downside that comes down to at least these levels. So we found a nice little bid here on this gold candle back test. We've got a beautiful technical target of a head and shoulders that's actually now been met. So I'll always catch a bid. It doesn't mean, you know, I think it's taken off into space or whatever, but I'll always catch a bid, sell into resistance. For example, yes, if we take a look, we've got the lovely wick bid on the $1.64, where we found resistance on that wick, bang on $2. Look at that, which is all this support has now become resistance. So basically the $2 psychological level is become resistance right now. So until we start to see some kind of reversal down here, I still think there's a case that we could come down to these levels here. It doesn't mean I'm a perma bear, it just means we're caught in a big correction until we start to see the S&P 500 give us those clues again that it's breaking bull. Okay, I still think we're caught in a correction here. I'll try my hardest to always find new support going forward. So I hope you understand the updates, but at the moment I don't necessarily think the bottom's in until I start to see more confluence in the S&P 500. Hope you understand the update. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay tuned. Take care everyone. Back to a new update on XRP. Bye bye.